Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt of House Roast.
And I am Jess of House Bun Bun. We have our banners up,
We,
ready to fight.
hey, listen, see that fire on that penguin right there? You really want to mess with the penguin? What are you doing, fisticuffs? Is that what's going on here?
That's right. My bunny have an eye patch.
I,
We team green. We team Aemond.
listen, I'm blind in one eye, but I do not have an eye patch. I just have this glasses over it that makes it look like I can see out of it. But no, okay, this video is our House of the Dragon Season 2, Episode 2 preview. We've taken a long look at the promo that HBO has put out there. I know it's a promo for the entire season, but there's some things I think from that we can assume that are in Episode 2. We've got some theories as to what's coming up, especially with Helena, who is gonna be really important now following what we saw at the end of Episode 1.
Oh, my girl, Helena. Oh, I just want to hold you. I felt so bad for her.
This is an interesting time that we're in because the banners pretty much give away. I am Team Black here. Jess is Team Green. I don't know how either one of us can feel altogether great about our individual teams at present.
Well, here's the interesting thing too, is that even though, you've got the fan base is divided, team black, team
Yeah.
green, there are some things that I feel like the whole fan bases all agree on. That is that Sir Kristen is terrible, nobody wants to claim him, and that Helena is a treasure and everybody loves her. And I think that the show has done a really good job of making us really feel deeply for her. And we talked about this in our review, and we have that up here at the channel if you missed it.
Mhm.
But they have taken a bit of a turn away from how bad things were in the books of what happened to her. But I mean, what happened to her in the show was still not good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it really has brought the fan bases together because we all feel bad about what's happened to her.
Well, that's what the show and, the source material also handles really well is this idea of, yeah, big widespread conflicts. There's always going to be a ton of terrible people. However, in such conflicts, there are always innocents. There are always people who just find themselves at the center of all of this garbage. You also have people who, in a different world, would probably be completely normal. That's where I look at somebody like my guy Jace, who, yeah, is not perfect, but I think is a kind enough person that if he was not involved in this Dance of Dragons, probably would have turned out different. Your guy Aemond might be kind of similar to that.
Yeah, I think he probably would be as well. I mean, for a lot of his growing up, he was sort of the bottom guy, the guy that was getting picked on by his own brother,
Mhm.
plus Luke, plus Jace. Everyone was, picking on him for a lot of his life growing up. Is it surprising that he's in this spot now where he's kind of just angry all the time? No, it's not surprising. If you get kind of kicked around a lot and you're insecure about how you feel, and I feel like Aemond is very insecure. He's really tried to figure out his place, even getting the biggest dragon in the kingdom. It doesn't matter. Like, you can still see, obviously he was still angry about what happened. He was
Mhm.
still insecure about what happened to him, and now we're here with this horrible accident that has now turned into, really, for me, for the first time in this series, somebody doing something purposeful to
Yeah.
change things, because a lot of this show has been miscommunication and accidents. Aemon's eye was an accident. What happened to Luke was an accident. There was the miscommunication of what happened when the king was talking to Alicent. I mean, we'll talk a bit about that in the trailer too, where she's basically like, whatever his intentions are, they're gone now. Like, I heard what I heard from him, and he was pretty clear to me what he was talking about. We're a husband and wife in bed talking about Aegon. Who else is he talking about? Why would he not be talking about his son? It all kind of makes sense. But now with Damon's choice, this is a choice. This was on
Yeah.
purpose. And I really feel that that moment and that context of things no longer being an accident really matters to this story.
It's funny because I would have said at the end of season 1, we have reached the point of no return. But
Yeah,
now
yeah.
now we have not only reached the point of no return, is there a point of no return beyond the point of no return? Because we are officially really, really, you could try to justify and excuse away what happened in the season 1 finale as an accident, but this is really the inflection point, and we're going to dive into all of the consequences. Before we do, though, of course, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel because we have so much more House of the Dragon content that is coming. These banners will be flying high for the next several weeks, guys.
Yeah, and we also have more House of the Dragon content going on over on our Patreon with live streams and other videos and polls and conversation, all kinds of stuff. So if you want to help support the channel further and help support us, head over to our Patreon. It's a great way to help us out. And thank you to everyone who has.
Thank you guys so much. We also have one quick question for you guys. Are you Team Aegon when it comes to him getting his revenge? Or do you think it's even now and everybody should just be able to sort of move forward and not go to this back and forth, back and forth? Let us know in the comments on that. So we're going to have a discussion here about Helaena, but with the qualifier from the start, there are some book spoilers that are coming about Helaena because I think it's important. So
oh, it's important. People are big mad about this.
Okay, so I'm going to apply, I don't know what exactly to call this. I almost want to call it the Doc Brown theory of ripple effects here. Get in the DeLorean, Marty. Okay, so what I'm doing Back to the Future analogy is just that in history, in fiction, in a lot of these different mediums, you have these fixed points in history where it feels like something has to happen. And if it doesn't happen, the entire story, the entire history changes. And the way in which Helaena dies in Fire and Blood, the George R. R. Martin book on which the show is based, that is a fixed point to me, where if Helaena doesn't die, and if Helaena doesn't die in the particularly brutal way that she does in the book, then I don't know what the rest of this show is. So to me, as much as they changed the events of Blood and Cheese in the premiere, and we went fully into that in the review. I mean, there's a character in the books, you know, one of Aegon and Helena's sons that's not even on this show yet, but I think they still have to get to that same point with Helaena, but what she goes through on the show so far, it's not even close to as traumatic as what she went through in the book. So how do you still get to that same ending?
Yeah, I mean, they may decide that what's happened to her, losing her son, is enough to get her to this point where she is going to die. But in the books, as we said, there's spoilers from the books here. I mean, she actually has to make a choice between two sons, her eldest son and her younger son, which one's going to die. And she face to face chooses the younger son to die. And then Blood and Cheese decide to kill the elder son. So she has to actually face her choice that she actually pointed to her younger son and said, I choose him to die, that she's unable to really live with that. She can't look at him anymore. She can't be in the same room with him anymore. She can't live with this choice. And so are they then just going to change it to, well, she pointed out her son and now her son's dead and that's enough to get her there? Sure, it can be enough to get her there. Of course, the loss of a child is always a reason to get you to some pretty dark places. But it definitely is a big change of that part of the story, sort of the escalation of how Helaena gets to this point where she just can't go on anymore.
Okay, so tinfoil hats on here. I think what they're going to do with Helaena is a little bit of a two-pronged approach here. I think one part of it is something you mentioned early on in this video, that she's largely an innocent in a lot of what's going on here. She's a little bit quirky. She talks about bugs all the time and all of these different forms. She's somebody who, if she was not a part of this particular royal family anywhere else in Westeros, she probably would have been fine. And so you can sort of...
She's a very quiet queen.
Yeah, you can sort of sit here and say she just doesn't have the fortitude to be a part of this environment, which is fine because I don't have that level of fortitude either. I relate to Helaena in that respect. But I think another part of it, and this is something that maybe is teased a little bit in the preview for what's coming up, is that this is understandably going to send Aegon into a fit of rage. You know, he may not exactly be the most likable king or likable person in the world, but he did love Jaehaerys, his son. He did
Mm.
care about him, and he's going to become, I think, so bent on revenge and vengeance and going gung ho further into this conflict that I think he's going to distance himself from his wife. She's going to feel even more just isolated because of what's going on, and she may end up feeling like nobody is really there for her, and that can be effective enough to
Mhm.
get to where they need the story to get to. It's just, to me, not going to be anywhere near as impactful as what it was in the books, and maybe they'll figure it out. I'm just worried, and this is why I thought that the blood and cheese changes were a disappointment on the show. It's just, it's going to be harder to get from point A to point B now.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the changes really changed her journey in this, where it's her that goes sort of into her own isolation and her own mind of all of this. And she is a very different character. She already is somebody who is more isolated within herself and her kids and whatever. And she has some kind of somewhat decent relationship with Aegon. I mean, we saw that scene where he came in, he was kind of like, where's my son? Oh, he's in
Mhm.
the library, whatever. Seems like everything is fairly decent here. They've definitely brought Aegon into his own, where, when we first saw him as a younger man, he was doing all kinds of horrible things,
Mhm.
what was going on. In a lot of ways, it seems like getting married, becoming a dad, and becoming the king has matured him in a way that I truly didn't expect. I said this in the review too. Him sitting on the throne, having, the common folk come in and be like, hey, I need to keep my sheep so that I can make you more sheep. And he's just like, all right, give this man back his sheep. Oh, no, you can't do that. Oh, man. All right, great. What about you? Oh, I need, to be paid up front to make this, these scorpions that you need made. Okay, great. We're going to pay you up front. You see Otto coming over. And at that point, Aaron's like, no, like we need to be able to give back to the people so the people will give back to us. And he is a lot more like Viserys than I think he thought he could be. Like, it does feel like becoming the king and getting into this powerful position hasn't corrupted him yet. It's turned him into somebody who wants to try to figure out how to do better. But now that is going to be all off the table. We saw in the preview that he's just beside himself. He cannot handle the death of his son. He wants revenge,
Mhm.
rightly so, understandably so. Like I said, a lot of the other stuff that's happened, Aemon losing his eye, Luke's death, these are accidents. These were
Yeah.
not on purpose. Nobody was there trying to hurt anybody on purpose or kill somebody on purpose. But this, Damon paid somebody to go up there to kill Aemon, and we ended up here where, this person has killed, someone who is like, what, two?
Really young.
And the king's son. So this is now just straight, we're getting into it.
Okay.
This is a choice.
It's a choice. I feel like if we're having a Team Black discussion here, I really feel like we might have stumbled into a win here on Team Black. I do not
Oh,
like the.
really? Because I feel like you guys really stepped in it.
Okay, here's the thing. We stepped in it, but somehow we've stepped in it, and I think we're managing to clean it off a little bit. I'm not condoning what Damon did. However,
And neither is Rhaenyra. We
no,
saw that in the trailer where she's basically like, yo, you have changed everything that I'm doing. Like, this is bad. This is not what I wanted. And even Alicent was just kind of like, it's, well, we're all in it now. Whatever the intentions were before, it's all gloves off.
there's two things here, though. I think number one is that Aegon is going to be so emotional, so reactive now that even though Damon stepped in it, it's going to cause Aegon to make a lot of mistakes because I think he's going to be like, let's go, 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 go. He's going to try to punt Otto Hightower out of King's Landing. And as entertained as I will be by that, because I don't like Otto Hightower, it still seems like it's a bad move strategically to kick out a rational person. But here's the other perhaps unintended consequence of Rhaenyra being so mad. You can put Damon in timeout. You can basically say, hey, Damon, go sit in the corner and think
Yeah,
about
because,
what you've done.
okay, because he's going to put up with that.
Okay, this is the problem. In theory, it's a great move because Damon is as effective as he might be waving around a white flag and fighting people. He is the worst strategist of all time. This man is just all chaos all the time, does not think about things. He thinks that he's king apparently, where he can sort of organize all of this with blood and cheese. Rhaenyra's rightfully upset. So if she can find a way, and I'm saying this knowing this is a very big if, you put these if in like big bright lights behind us, if she can find a way to sort of have Damon sit down and be quiet for a little while and actually, let everybody else work, she might be able to get something done here because, she's got a strategic mind. I think she can sort of plan things out. She just needs to work with Corlys, Rhaenys, try to figure out ways to make sure that nothing happens when it comes to the ships and they can start to make progress.
It's also going to be interesting to see who stays on her side. We saw in the promo that Alicent's basically like, Rhaenyra's people are very likely just going to stick with her. She could do whatever she wants, including what she's done to this baby, but they'll still be like, we'll excuse away stuff like this because we're just here for you no matter what you do. It just doesn't matter. And I think that that's true to a point. I would be surprised if there wasn't like one or two houses that are kind of wavering at that point to be like, we're okay with a lot of stuff, but this, I don't know that I'm okay with this, because if this is what you're going to do to get the throne, then how are you going to rule us?
Yeah, it's gonna be a complicated thing to justify, and I think it's gonna be a really complicated thing to justify with House Stark. We saw Cregan Stark in the premiere, and Cregan Stark, not only does he sound a little bit like Jon Snow with just the way that he talks, but I think he's got a similar view of ethics. I think the Starks, they like to pride themselves as good people, occasionally to the point where it can be annoying if you're around them all the time and you're just like, let your hair down, be a little bit flawed. But I don't think the Starks are going to be altogether great about supporting somebody who pulled something like this.
Rhaenyra is just going to have to hand Daemon the bus schedule. I'm sorry. Like, if she's going to really be able to still stand on what she believes and how she wants to rule, somebody's got to take the fall for that. And it's not going to be her. It has to be the person that actually did it. And I know she probably doesn't want to run over her husband, but what other choice does she really have? Somebody has to take the fall for that.
Yeah. She needs to rely on other people who are more respected at this point. I feel like Corlys has a pretty good reputation. Yeah. You can use him a lot. Yes, Rhaenys did what she did with the dragon at the coronation, but you know what? Compared to Blood and Cheese, Rhaenys is fine. You can sort of use Rhaenys here or there.
Yeah, she had the chance to take everybody out. She did not. She's fine.
I think you can also rely on Jace. He was more than fine up there with House Stark. He seems to be a reasonable young man who has perhaps gotten past his many misdeeds when it comes to mistreating Aemond when he was younger. He seems like he is competent and capable, at least for now. I think the only question I have about Jace is just how much more is he going to be impacted by his mourning? Because at the time in which he was with House Stark, he didn't exactly know everything that was happening.
Yeah, that's the thing, is Jace is very much like his mom, where they do take more time to grieve through things and they are more strategic. They're not just running hot-headed like Daemon or like, Aegon is going to. And I understand why Aegon's going to be as mad as he is just on a revenge path. I would be as well. I completely understand. He is going to need people around him to try to pull together something more strategic like an Aemond or Larys. I mean, listen, I know, but he's really strategic. And listen, I know he's team whoever's in power, but Team Green's in power right now. So that's just kind of where we are. But he does need, even Otto to be around to try to be like, okay, we're going to get you your revenge, but it's going to take some time and it's going to take some moves. I just don't know if he's going to be okay with that. This is where I put on my tinfoil hat. We saw Aemond in the premiere kind of not necessarily plotting behind his brother's back, but trying to get together some different moves before everything happened with his son, to figure out like, how can we strategically secure everything for my brother so that he can continue to reign. And I feel like we could see, we see him with his relationship with Sir Criston. Oh no, which is going to turn sideways. But I could easily see the two of them on their own being like, okay, we're going to find a way to get that revenge for the king. He doesn't need to know about everything, or maybe he does. And he'll be like, you know what? That's okay. You guys go take care of this. I'm going to take care of things another way. And whoever wins, wins. I can see Aegon doing that as well.
Everything you just lined up, though, is one of the biggest reasons, as lukewarm as I was about Blood and Cheese, I'm still really excited about the rest of the season just because, yes, you have Team Black and Team Green, but you have all these different factions working within them that all have somewhat similar goals, but way different ways of getting there. How
Mhm.
Aemon is going to get there, and even if he's relying on people like Sir Kristen, he still is doing whatever he can to sort of achieve the end. And then you have people like Laris who, okay, I've come up with it. Team Midnight Green. You know, you pull up those old boxes of Crayolas and they have those colors of Midnight Green. What is that?
It's Laris.
Laris. Laris is, oh, he's just a step away from Team Black if it calls from it, but he's still
Yeah.
got green in his name. So, but there's people who are going to fall in the middle there, and there are more new characters that are going to be introduced. And so there could be some more intriguing people, but I just think we're set up for a really exciting action-packed season. Yes, there's going to be some very, very difficult stuff. I mean, book readers obviously know a lot of that already, but
Mhm.
I'm still really excited for where we're going from here.
Yeah, I think that they could have done more with the blood and cheese and everything that happened there. They didn't need to go pull back that far. I
Hmm.
mean, this is the Game of Thrones universe.
Yeah.
We've seen the Red Wedding, we've seen so much worse. And so for them to have kind of cheesed it out where it's like, okay, we're going to have this, killing, but it's going to be off screen and we're going to
Hmm.
take away this and that, whatever. I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of like a normal day in Westeros.
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna try to, if they're thinking, okay, we got to go crazier later in the season. We can't put the craziest thing in the premiere. I don't know exactly how they're gonna follow this up, but I'm really curious about it.
Yeah.
We have so much to get to the rest of the season, which is why we need you to subscribe to the channel so you
Mhm.
don't miss any of it. Smash that like button as well. Also, more House of the Dragon content is at our Patreon. We have a link in the description below to check that out. And thank you to our patrons for your
Thank you.
support. We will see you here next time.